Hello, Coach Holmes here, and today we're going to be talking about two-step equations, all right, as far as working them out in order to solve them. So first, what I want you all to think about is, if you look at these two equations, 3x plus 4 equals 13, 3x equals 12, okay? I want you to pause the video for a minute and think about this question. What is the difference between the two equations? So go ahead and pause the video real quick. Now, if you notice these two equations, okay, there's one big difference I want y'all to keep in mind, okay? And the big difference is the number of terms that they have. If you notice here, I got a 3x, a 4, and a 13. If y'all remember from last year, what a term is basically any single number, a variable, or the product of a number and a variable. Okay? Any of those three is a term. So if you look right here on the top, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. I have three terms on this first equation. Now, by looking at that logic, if you look down here, I have 1, 2 terms. Okay? So the big key I want y'all to get out of this is that they have different number of terms. Okay? They have a different number of terms. Now, but another thing is that the process in order to solve this is going to take more than one step. And that's one thing about math that you guys really got to be able to grasp, is that it's going to take more than one step to find the equation itself, okay? But in this case, we're talking 2 steps, okay? We're only worried about taking 2 steps in order to solve the problem. It's only going to take 2 steps for today. Now, here's an example, okay? So let's look at this first example real quick. Negative 5x plus 6 equals 16. I gotta be able to solve this, but I can solve this in 2 simple steps, okay? But remember, the main goal in all this is to get this variable x by itself, okay? So the first thing I gotta do is notice that it's negative 5x plus 6. Think about what the inverse of addition is. Subtraction. So remember, I want to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay? Now, I'm not subtracting. Now, think about it. The reason why I put the negative 6 under the 16 rather than the negative 5 is because if you draw a line through the equal sign, I'm already subtracting 6 from the left side. So really, I just gotta make sure I subtract 6 on the right side. So the 6's canceled out on the left side because positive 6 minus 6 equals 0. So I'm left with negative 5 on the left side. 16 minus 6. Sorry, that's not supposed to be a point. 16 minus 6 gives me 10. Now, notice that I am multiplying negative 5 times x. The inverse of multiplying is division. So I'm going to divide negative 5 to both sides. So I'm going to get x equals 10 divided by negative 5, which is negative 2. 2 simple steps, because all I have to do was subtract from both sides and then divide from both sides, and I got my answer. Now let's look at this. Negative 18 minus 3x equals negative 57. Now we are getting a little bit of a bigger number, but again, the number of steps are still the same. It's still going to take me 2 steps. So first off, since I got a negative 8, I want to leave the x by itself. So I want to move this negative 18. Now, I'm going to add 18, and even though it's a negative 18 up in front, I can still move this by adding it. okay, I can still move this by adding it. So I add 18 to both sides. The 18s cancel out. I'm left with negative 3x equals, give me a minute, negative 39. Okay? So negative 3x equals negative 39. Now, since I am multiplying, I want to divide negative 3 to both sides. So this cancels out to leave me x equals negative 39 divided by negative 3 is positive 13. Because remember, a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. Okay? Just remember, a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. Okay? So my answer for this is x equals 13. And again, only took me 2 steps. Now, so what do we do with combining like terms? Okay, now, well, first off, what is like terms? Okay, like terms is basically any term that are similar to each other. Okay, so for example, I have the 5x plus 2x plus 7 equals 14. So, if I look at one side, on one side of the equation, okay? So if I look at one side of the equation, so let's split this in half, okay? So let's look on the left side. I got a 5x plus 2x plus 7. Between those three, I want you to think about, pause the video, to think about which of these three are really similar to each other, okay? Now, after thinking about it, if you guessed, or if you assume that the 5x and the 2x are similar, you are right. And the reason why is that they both have an x. Okay? This x is a term, but there's 2x and there's a 5x. Since they're similar, I'm going to combine these two to give me 7x. Now, the 7 and the 14, they may be similar, but they're not on the same side. So I don't combine these two. On one side, so again, on one side of the equation, combine the terms that are similar. Okay? You want to combine the terms that are similar to each other. Just like the x's. They're both x, so I'm going to combine them to give me 7x. Okay? And that's just putting them all together. Okay? That's the idea of combining. Just put them all together. Now, let's go ahead and solve. We have to write these down. So let's go ahead and solve by combining like terms. So the first example, 6x plus 2x equals 16. Okay? Now, again, this is only going to take me this problem is only going to take me 2 steps. Okay? This is only going to take me 2 steps. Now, 6x and 2x are similar to each other because they both share an x. So since they both share an x, I'm going to combine these two by adding them together because there's an addition between them. So 6x plus 2x, I'm about to put 12, gives me 8x. Now there's nothing to combine with the 16, so I just leave it alone. Now, so I got 8x, 8 times x equals 16. Remember, the opposite of multiplying is division. So I want to divide 8 to both sides. So x equals positive 2. Okay? So next, I'm going to do 4y minus 2y equals 12. Now, the difference between 4y minus 2y equals 12 to our first problem is that instead of a positive in between, there's a minus. But I can still combine like terms. But the only difference is that the operation is going to be different. Instead of adding them together, I'm taking it away or subtracting. So I'm going to take this 4y minus 2y to give me positive 2y. So even with the minus there, you still combine them, but in that case, you're just subtracting them from each other. So 2y equals 12. Remember, times is the inverse of times, or multiplying, is division. So I divide by 2 to both sides. Y equals positive 6. And that's going to be my answer. Now, I am going to give you guys, now there is one that's a little bit harder. But I want y'all to get a good understanding of this problem. This is going to take a lot more than 2 steps. This is going to take me 3 really. But I still want y'all to see different examples just like this. Now, notice that if I draw a line, if I look on the left side, because there's more than 3 terms, there's more than 1 term. Of the 3 terms, the 2 that are similar is negative 6 and negative 12. I'm just going to put a minus right there, so that way you guys know it's there. Because I am covering it up. I did cover it up. Now, even though they both don't have an x, I can still combine these two because remember, a term can also just be a single number in itself. Now, I don't combine anything with a 4x, so I just leave it down as 4x. Now, I combine these two to say negative 6 minus 2 gives me negative 8. So on the left side, I'm doing 4x minus 8 equals 32. Okay, and I'm just going to leave the line there so that way, for those of you that prefer this method, can actually see it that way. So now I got 4x minus 8 equals 32. So remember, since I got a subtraction right here, what I want to do is I want to add 8 to both sides. Let me get rid of that extra mark. But I'm still going to add 8. So if I add 8 to the left, I add 8 to the right. Negative 8 plus 8 cancel out, and I'm just left with the 4x. 32 plus 8 is going to give me 40. So I got 4x equals 40. And then the inverse of multiplying is division. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so that gives me 1x. 40 divided by 4 is 10. So my answer to that problem is going to be x equals 10. So, just so that way you guys know and understand, is that there will be equations that require you to do more than 1 step. But remember, as long as you know the inverse operation for the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, you will be able to work this out multiple times to get to the answer. Okay? Also, there may be cases where you have to combine terms together, and that's okay, because all you gotta do is just do the operation in itself. Because combining like terms only work if 2 terms that are the same are on the same side of the equation. Because you could have two of the same terms on both sides, but you can't just combine them because they're on opposite ends. It's almost like if you have person A and person B on the other side of the cliff. You don't necessarily have two people on one side of the cliff. They're just one on each side. So think about it like that as far as being the terms are on opposite sides of the cliff. If they're on the same side of the cliff, you combine them, add them together, subtract them if it's a minus. But if they're on opposite sides of the cliff, then you can't combine them, and you just gotta work it out doing inverse operations. Okay? Just remember, if you guys have any sort of questions, feel free to email me, give me a chat, and I'll be more than happy to help y'all. Thank you. Have a good day.